Hello all and welcome, and I am the MGTOW philosopher, and in this video I would like to discuss an oldie but a goodie article that I came across in 2014 by a Patricia O'Brien titled, "We Should Stop Putting Women in Jail for Anything." Oh, really? And of course, if you can see her picture there, it's very small, but you can see it right beside her name. She looks like a man, so probably a lesbian. The hair is cut uber short, man hair. So yeah, she's probably a lesbian, and she looks like a hideous feminazi cunt. So of course she thinks no women should ever go to jail. Yeah, but you're for equality, right? Same treatment, but no jail for women. Yet again, another perfect example of how feminism is in no way about equality and all about superiority. Inmates sit in their bunks in dorm B at Julia Tutwiler prison for women in Wetumpka, Alabama? Look at them. They're all hideous woman beasts. They all are big, fat, really short hair, ugly women. You know what they need to do? They need to get these women to work doing something. Prison should have mandatory jobs for everybody, and you have to work 8 hours a day. I guarantee they wouldn't be so fat then, sitting on their fat asses doing nothing. All on my dime. Lovely. Anyway, let's get to the meat of this story before these fatties eat it, which they probably already have. It sounds like a radical idea. Stop incarcerating women. Yeah, it does sound radical. Why wouldn't we put women in jail? I don't get it. And close down women's prisons. But in Britain, there's a growing movement sponsored by a peer in the House of Lords to do just that. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Britain is one of the top 5 feminist shitholes on the planet, okay? So I'm not surprised that the retards in Britain, with all those simp men, with their female prime minister, would be pushing for no woman to ever go to jail. Kill a man? No problem. Go home the same day. The argument is actually quite straightforward. There are far fewer women in prison than men to start with. So what? Wait, that doesn't make any sense. So there's less women in prison already, so we ought to just send them home too, even if they're mass murderers. What? Insane. Women make up less than 7. That's actually not true. The prison population is much more than 7%. Okay, it's like 18%. These numbers are lies to try and convince you. These are cherry-picked numbers. These are lie numbers. They're not true. 18% of the people in prison are women, not 7%. Again, total fabrication of the left to try and get you to think that women are not as big in regards to criminality as men, okay? Trying to make it seem like it's far, far less than it really is. I mean, geez, I think that if women were treated just like men, the prison population would actually be equal, because there are some things that women and men are actually equal in, usually negatives. Things like terribility to bad shit. Women make up just said, this means that these women are disproportionately affected by a system designed for men. Oh, what? What? What are you talking about? I love it. Patriarchy. Okay, so these women, she's implying that these women are in jail because the system is designed by men for men. What are you talking about? Oh, are you saying the prison is somehow worse, more evil, and designed to be hard on men? But wait a second, I thought that we lived in a patriarchy where everything was designed in men's favor. So if everything was designed to be in men's favor and to give men kid glove treatment, then why would prisons, period, be such atrocious places for men? And you're all for equality, right? So wouldn't you want women to be treated just like men? Right? Even though you already say that men are the ones in charge. There's a patriarchy, but yet somehow they've created these horrible prisons that treat men like garbage and toss them in the hole for months on end with no light and very little light and no other socialization with human beings. Oh yeah, but we live in a patriarchy. This means that these women are disproportionately affected by a system designed for men who you say exists in a patriarchy where men get all the advantages and women get all the disadvantages, right? So you contradicted yourself right there. Right there, you've contradicted yourself, bitch. You need to answer the question, why is the men's prison system so bad if men are in charge and we have a patriarchy that would actually, what a patriarchy actually means is that the system would be biased in favor of men. So men would be in prison less. Men would have very nice, prisons that would be essentially like resorts, and women would get the short end of the stick. But now you're saying that men's prisons are worse, even though men are the privileged class. Okay, and you shouldn't get treated like men because what? You're a woman, so you want to be treated as if you're better, superior? Oh, you want special treatment? But I thought you were for equality. But could women's prisons actually be eliminated in the United States, where the rate of women's incarceration has risen by 646% in the past 30 years? No. No. The context is different, but many of the arguments are the same. And I made a video about this, about how, proof of the matriarchy, and it talks about all these prison statistics, okay, and how women are actually far more privileged in society than men are. I gave absolute proof of that, and I talked about prison statistics and how many men go to prison in regards to women and for what crimes and such. And I did side-by-side comparisons that prove that women are indeed a privileged class, yet it's not enough. Now the prisons have to be club meds, too. They ought to be club meds, and you in no way can get the same treatment as a man, even though everything you say is supposedly, that smokescreen of equality. Essentially, the case for closing women's prisons is the same as the case for imprisoning fewer men. Yeah, but you don't hear that argument being thrown about. Imprison fewer men? Oh, come on. I never hear that. It is the case against the prison industrial complex. We mean prison industrial complex. How many of these prisons are actually profiting? That prison industrial complex crap. I mean, okay, the people that are profiting, let me tell you who's profiting, okay? The prison guard unions, they're profiting because you get more prison guards, and the unions themselves get more money. But the majority of people in prison don't work. They just sit on their asses all day and play Parcheesi and watch fucking cable, okay? So I don't know how much profit these prisons are making. I mean, the private prisons, some of those are making a profit. They exist to make a profit. And some prisons do exist that make some profit, but the majority of them, you're not even required to work or do anything. So honestly, that's a bunch of crap. Prison industrial complex for community-based treatment where it works better than incarceration. Well, actually, there could be a case made for that because incarceration as a form of punishment doesn't work. You want to actually try to rehabilitate people, okay? Some Norwegian, Nordish countries, some of these, some of those countries actually focus more on rehabilitation than they do punishing people, and it actually works better. I would agree with that we should focus more on rehabilitation and less on this very, very outdated idea of punishing the offender. It harkens back to putting people in stocks and having them in the town square and shit and shaming them and shit. And actually, that might be more effective because a lot of times people will opt for prison rather than being shamed. But, I mean, as far as the punishment aspect of prison goes, that doesn't work very well. Of course, they want it that way. Okay? The global elites want it that way, all right? They want recidivism, all right? They want these nasty, rabid criminals out there scaring the shit out of people and creating crime and distracting you from the real criminals, which is them. But there is evidence that prison harms women more than men. So what? wait. I think they shouldn't commit a crime. Well, what is this? I'm supposed to give them kid gloves because prison would harm them more than men? Good. Then don't commit crimes, bitches, and you won't go to jail. Or better yet, stop pushing the narrative that women are somehow better or more noble than men, and at the same time giving them special treatment that allows them to get away with lots of smaller, pettier crimes until they commit a real fucking crime that'll send them to jail, no matter how much pussy privilege they might have, and then they find out the hard way that prison isn't Club Med. Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that for starters, and then less women will go to jail, period. So why don't you start that? What do I care? Oh, yeah, so I'm automatically supposed to care more about women. Don't you love this argument? It essentially is based on the foundational premise that women are more valuable than men, and you should care more about them women are more valuable than men, and that you should care more about women than men. Like, women are not only more important, more valuable than men, but they're also more fragile, so we need to give them more special treatment. Oh, really? Any examination of the women who are in U.S. prisons reveals the majority are nonviolent offenders with poor education, little employment. You don't want to know why? Because there's a majority of crimes, and by the way, most men are in jail for nonviolent crimes, too. The majority of people in prison are in jail for drug offenses, okay? So why don't you tell people that? Oh, you don't want to tell people that. You want to create and you want to continue to push the bullshit myth that men are somehow all so violent. And people tend to believe that the majority of men are in prison because they're of violent crimes. No, it's mostly drug offenses. Little employment experience and multiple histories of abuse from childhood through adulthood. What do I care? That's the same sad sob story as for men. Men have the same sob stories, but they're still in prison. Why aren't you advocating to get more of them out? Women are also more likely than men to have children. Oh, the get-out-of-jail-free card. I see. You know why they're more likely to have children? because they go out and they bang guys without condoms, and then they lobby the court to get sole custody so they can get that cheddar from the man. That's why they're more likely to have custody. Again, that's their choice, okay? And they chose to have that kid too, by the way, all right? Abortion exists as an option. If they choose not to avail themselves of it, well, that's their choice as well. Rely on them for support. That's why they have fathers. Why don't just the kid goes to the father? Or is he in jail too? Well, that's what foster care is for. Put her in jail. 147 American children have mothers in prison. 147,000? Ought to be more. More of these bitches should be in jail. I mean, honestly, that's your excuses? It's harder on women, so don't put them in jail. You think it's harder? It's hard on people. Oh, prison's not that hard on men, so it's okay to put them in jail. Men are more stoic, we're stronger. Wait. I thought that men and women were equal. Oh, this is, oh, God. This cunt is clearly a feminist. She goes to teaches at a social university. Let me check that out again. Jane Addams College of Social Work. So that means it's a college of feminism, of Marxism. It's a communist college. I see they teach socialism, feminism, bullshit. Well, that explains everything. Sure. So no wonder I'm getting this kind of contradictory message. So feminism, of course, is supposedly about equality. Men and women are equal, and all the differences are nothing more than stereotypes. They're social constructs. So shouldn't prison be equally hard on women as it is on men? Because we're all equal, right? We're all the same. The reason we have differences is because they've been socialized into us, not because they exist intrinsically as a reality. I just love how feminists talk out of both sides of their mouths. When it's convenient for them, we're equal. When it's not convenient for them, well, we're not equal. Men and women are different, and it's harder on women than it is on men, so don't put women in jail. It continues by saying, prison nation. The United States is a prison nation. Right. More than 1.5 million are sitting in the country. Oh, this is an old article. It's like 2.3 million now. And this obsession with punishment is expensive. This obsession with punishment is expensive of both men and women, okay? Cumulatively, states spend more than $52 billion a year on their prison systems. The federal government also spends tens of billions to police, prosecuting, and prison people. Oh, well, let's just let them free. It's expensive, so let's just let them roam the streets and victimize people. Sure, why not? Well, we can let the women free because they're not guilty of anything that's overly violent. Well, most men ain't either. Again, the majority of people in prison, men, are there for drug offenses, so let them free too, right? No? You're not advocating to free all men either? Wait a second, what? I love the solipsism here. It's unbelievably high. Oh, my God. Though research demonstrates that incarceration harms individual well-being, it does not improve public safety. What research? Feminist think tank bullshit? You know that's bullshit. Incarcerating criminals does not improve public safety? Oh, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. You know that was reached through confirmation bias bullshit, okay? We all know, just from common sense, that's not true. What purpose is served by subjecting the most disempowered Women are not the most disempowered. Women have the most power of anybody in society, okay? Stop pushing that bullshit feminist trope that women have no power. They have overwhelming power in our society. They have the vote. They have affirmative action. They get into college 65, almost 70% more than men. What are you talking about? Abused and nonviolent women to the perpetually negative environment of prisons. Yeah, you stole $2 million from your boss, but you didn't whack him over the head with a hammer and steal it that way. So sure, just go home with an ankle monitor. What? What? Unbelievable! Is anybody not seeing this? And meanwhile, these women getting free, the left wants this so they have more voters. Don't you understand? These women with their criminal records will never get a good job, and they will always be on some kind of welfare. They'll be dependent on the state. Yet more lifetime voters for the Democratic Party, which ought to be labeled the Communist Party. Efforts to make prison work for women have only perpetuated the growth of the prison industrial complex. Oh, I love how they say that. Okay, this myth that prison is somehow profitable for overall for the government or somebody else. The prisons lose money, okay? The only people making money, essentially, are the prison guard unions. They're making a bundle, okay? And the prison guards love prisons because, well, it gives them a job, all right? But it's a loser as far as all the tax money that goes into these prisons, okay? All right, but it creates a permanent underclass, which they like, which the left loves, okay? Loves this permanent distraction in society that gets you to essentially ignore the real criminals. Have to make the prison work. Yeah, these punitive reforms have helped some individuals and possibly brought the nature of mass warehousing of poor black and brown bodies more into focus, but the number of incarcerated people still continues to rise. Yeah, amazing when you have a government and a Congress and a legislative that their only job is to pass laws. Yeah, their only job is to pass laws. You know, they sit around all day thinking about new ways to justify their existence and new laws that they can craft, okay, that will essentially play or pander to the fears or the wants of their constituents so that they can get reelected, use this stuff as a platform. And, of course, when they get out of office, the law is still there. Laws never disappear. So we got all these laws. Imagine, yeah, you keep adding laws to the book year after year after year. You keep adding laws. And amazingly, there's more people breaking laws and going to jail. Imagine that. Even though the majority of them are men, and if you were really about equality, honey, you would be wanting equal representation of women in prison because men and women are equal, don't you know? And obviously women commit as many crimes as men, which is true. They commit even more probably, but obviously they commit just as many. So shouldn't we have as many women in prison as men? Oh, no, because women are different and they're better than men. Wait, what? You teach that men and women are equal. They're the same, and the only differences are socially engineered, right? Oh, that's why they're ending up in prison. Okay, because men are socially engineered to be more criminal and more violent. Yeah, it's amazing how the patriarchy created their own population that they favor and love. They'll be criminals that would just end up in jail. Yeah, that really makes a lot of sense, you dumb bitches. It goes on to say, community interventions work. Well, why don't you push this for men then, if community interventions work? Why aren't you advocating for community intervention to help keep men out of jail? Oh, because you want them in jail. Okay. So what is the alternative to jailing women? Why doesn't it just say the alternative to jailing people? Why is it focusing on women? As if they're somehow intrinsically better. Again, if women are intrinsically better and it's not just socially constructed, why are you lobbying only for women? Why are you idiots out there? Why are some of you simp idiots out there still believing that feminism is somehow for equality among all people? Why do you think it's called feminism, you idiots, and not something neutral like equalism? So what is the alternative to jailing women at the rate we do? Jailing more of them because they get a pussy pass too often and there are as many women criminals as men? As I've said very much before, women and men are equal in some ways, and they're all bad. Men and women are equal in their capacity for criminality and their ability to do evil. So really, why aren't there as many? The question shouldn't be, why are more women getting put in jail, or how do we get women out of jail? The question should be, why don't we have more of them in jail? Why don't we have a jail population equal to that of men in regards to women? In Britain, advocates propose community sentences for non-violent offenders. Of course you do, because you're women, and you want these women to continue to vote for your progressive leftist policies, so you have to advocate on their behalf if you want to keep them playing for your team. For non-violent offenders and housing violent offenders in small custodial centers near their families. Isn't a small custodial center a prison? I love it. Oh, I see small custodial centers. You mean Club Meds. Okay, so what they're really talking about is we still want to be able to put women in prison. We just want it to be like something we're not going to call a prison, and so it's going to be a lot nicer and more like a Club Med. Okay, I see. And here comes some more disinformation. There's evidence that these approaches can work in the United States. Really? Where? Show me the evidence. And this is what leftists do. They name this nebulous evidence that exists somewhere in the ether, but they don't tell you what it is, because then if they told you what it is, you could find it and then debunk it. I'm sure I could find evidence I could find evidence for aliens. I could find evidence for Bigfoot. I could find evidence for the Loch Ness Monster. But there's no evidence, the real evidence for any of that shit. But I could still find stuff calling itself evidence. And it is evidence. I mean, big giant footprints out in the woods and shit. Some dude on the weekends walking around with giant wooden shoes that are size 57. And because this is his fucking hobby, to fuck with people's heads. Yeah, that's evidence. It's bullshit, but it is evidence that these approaches could work in the United States. Opportunities to test alternatives at prison are increasing across the states. You mean like private prisons? And some have demonstrated beneficial results for women who participate. What do you mean beneficial results? What does that mean? They didn't get as fat? They reported their well-being was better and they weren't as depressed? Yeah, they have nicer living conditions. Of course they feel better. For example, state-funded project Redeploy Illinois has built upon the evidence that nonviolent offenders are more effectively treated in their communities by diverting 1,376 nonviolent offenders from prison since January 2011, when the program began, through the end of 2013. Offenders or female offenders? Which ones? Notice they don't tell you, which means it was probably I love this. So they'll tell you that it was probably mostly men, or that were men, or was all men in this grouping of 1,376 nonviolent offenders. Yes. Men, well, they benefited more if they were nonviolent offenders from treatment than they did jail. Yeah, imagine that. Men and women share some things in common in that regard. But why aren't you pushing then for men to have this program done for them instead of only women? Because you're a feminist and you're not about equality. You're just for pushing women's agendas and not men's. If only you were honest and came out and said that. Oh, but if you came out and said that, no mangina would become a mangina. No men out there would be stupid enough. Well, some actually still would, because they would want the pussy, and they would be such sellouts to their own sex. But many of the manginas and white knights that follow you would choose not to anymore. So, of course, don't be honest. Yeah, can't be honest. Oklahoma is currently ranked number 1 for female incarceration per capita in the country. Nearly 80% of Oklahoma's incarcerated women are nonviolent offenders. Yeah, and 60% of men are nonviolent offenders. So what? So what? Their presence in prison largely, in fact, it's more like 60, 70%. It's almost equal in that regard. And yet, there's still this myth that men, the majority of men in prison are violent offenders, and that men are more violent than women. Both bullshit. I've made videos about this. I specifically made a video called Women Are More Violent Than Men, proof of this. Check it out. It's in my original content section. Their presence in prison largely attributed to drug abuse. Same with men. 65, 70%. Men. Drug offenses. Why aren't you lobbying for them? Distribution of controlled substances, prostitution, property crimes. Minus the prostitution part, men are almost exactly the same. Why aren't you lobbying for them? This pisses me off. A program that began 5 years ago, Women in Recovery. Why don't you start a program called Men in Recovery? Don't you care about men? Oh, that's right, you don't. They're your enemy. Provides an alternative to prison for women. And yet, for some reason, we don't brand these bitches as our enemy. You don't hate women. Oh, you can't hate women. I hate feminists, and they're all fucking feminists, the majority of them. An alternative to prison for women who are sentenced for felony crimes linked to alcohol or drug addiction. Funny, we don't have that for men. Why don't you push that for men, since the majority of the male prison population is also in there for drug abuse? The program includes comprehensive treatment and services such as employment services, housing assistance, and family reunification. Interesting how the word family and family reunification is such a big deal when it's about women, but it's never brought up with men. Oh, reunifying the man and his family. Nah. Only women and family are synonymous, not men. Because in that way, women can then use family as their pussy pass to get out of jail. We can't make it a universal pass, because then men could take advantage of it as well, and then it would lose its power. Oh, I see. Women with small children are given the highest priority for admission to the program. And then, of course, we would actually be about equality if we did that. Can't have that. Women who complete the program, averaging about 18 months, have a degree of success after... What does that mean? Have a degree. That means they have no degree. Let me tell you something. 1%'s a degree, okay? That doesn't justify the expense. So what's the degree of success? You don't know? It's your opinion? What's the number? And of course, you know, if it was some big number like 18% or 25%, they would tell you. So a degree means like 0.5% or 1%. Ooh, big whoop-de-freaking-do. And what do they? What are their criteria for success? What are their criteria for success? Tell me the criteria for success. Less recidivism after 5 years, 10 years. How long did you follow these women after release? How long a study was this? Oh, it wasn't a study. These are just people's anecdotal reports of success in their own part. I feel better. I have more optimism once I get out of prison that I'm going to be okay, and I'm going to be a successful member of society. I'm going to contribute to society. Even though I'm a woman, I have a much better chance of sucking more out of society through welfare than I ever do contributing to it. But hey, I feel better, so that's a degree of success. Yeah, okay. So essentially, there have been no measurable results, no study done. This was just anecdotal evidence. Women got out of prison. They questioned them. They didn't follow them for 5 years, 10 years to see how many of them recommitted crime and went back to jail. This is all just some think tank bullshit solipsistic, subjective opinion study where we saw success of some kind. What was the success? Oh, we can't tell you that. Why? Well, because it's not objective success. It was subjective success. The women felt better when they got out, and they felt more positive about their futures. Yeah. I'm sorry, that doesn't qualify as success. Not in this case. The program coordinator has told us that 68% of the women who completed the program had no further involvement with the criminal justice system. Within what time period? What does that mean? What does that mean? What time period? After 6 months? A year? What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. Tell me how long a time period. That's meaningless. So you didn't tell me a time period, which means no time period. Yeah, you're talking about, so this just got done. This program just got done. And 2 months later, oh, well, they haven't had any more contact with the criminal justice system. Hey, give them time. Give them time. Total nonsense. You know, if this was like a year later, but it would tell you if it was a year later. So it's just like, oh, well, this is while the program's still going and we've released. And how many women, by the way? How many women have gotten through this program, which at the time of this writing was a very new thing and had just been done, actually went through the program? Tell me how many of them. If it's like 5 or 6, I'm not impressed, okay? Okay? And how long? How long a time period has there been since they got out? Okay? 6 months, a year, and in that time they've had no contact with the criminal justice system? I would think that it was a longer period they would be telling you, wouldn't they? Of course, because feminists, they always brag about the things they've done if they ever do anything that is of worth mentioning. Starting with women. Why? Why? You know, starting with women, it's not going to go to men. It's all about women. Because men are more violent and toxic. Even as we learn about promising diversion programs for women, are we really ready to shut down women's prisons? If we think of abolition as a citizen's effort and believe that women should be allowed to jump the queue for transport along the path of becoming healed, and there are steps that must be taken from a feminist perspective. So I thought this was leading up to no, we can't do that. We can't have women jumping ahead in the queue in regards to recovery and healing. We can't have women getting special treatment. No, it didn't say that. There just need to be some special considerations that we need to take into consideration before we essentially give women all of these advantages that men won't get. Lovely from a feminist perspective. You mean Marxist perspective? Okay. We need to understand the harm embedded in the current prison system. Yeah. But of course, men are more immune to that harm because men are so much stronger and tougher and stoic. But men and women are equal, and yet women can't take what men can take. What? For example, Susan Burton, the founder of the New Way of Life group of transition homes for women, exiting prison in Los Angeles, indicates that an abolitionist perspective transforms the lives of former prisoners. Yeah. Yeah, I'm better transform their lives in prison. You know, they get treated like queens, and it's like Club Med. But how does it turn them into non-criminals? Direct assistance from this program reconnects women with their families. So what? So what? Communities and citizenship. What does that have to do with anything? Like that's the end goal? The woman's well-being is all we care about. And as long as their well-being during prison and after prison is improved, what the hell do we care if they've actually been rehabilitated? We just want to make their lives better. Gee, I wish that these people had that same sentiment in regards to men. Toss him in the hole. Oh, you ate his Twinkie. 2 months in the hole. Yeah, really. I mean, they're in no way treated the same, by the way. Women's prisons are in no way the same as men's. Oh, but it's still too harsh. Oh, I love this. By the way, I love this. The bitch who wrote this article says that women's prisons are modeled after men. Yeah, they're in an institution that was created for men, where she's essentially implying that men are the only criminals. And there's somehow some biased system that's actually becoming more hateful towards women, which is bullshit. Essentially, women just have less men willing to rob, rape, steal, murder to supply them with a lifestyle. And I talked about this in one of my videos. That essentially, the only reason you're seeing the rise of the female criminal isn't because society is becoming more hateful toward women, because men are willing to simp for them less. They're getting married less. They're being in relationships less. And in turn, women don't have these simp fools to go out and rob and steal for them. So now they're having to do it themselves, essentially, to take care of themselves. Women have become more independent. That's all. Women have become more independent. They've become bigger cunts. Men don't want to have anything to do with them. They can't have their cake and eat it too so much anymore. So now they're having to take care of themselves. So that's why you're seeing more female criminals. Not because the system is becoming somehow more slanted and biased toward them. It's anything but. And of course, the only reason you're hearing about making prison, even for men or women, considering making it more soft and an easier experience and more about rehabilitation than it is punishment, is because more women are getting arrested. And if it was still the amount of women that were getting arrested 30 years ago, you wouldn't hear a peep from women, because the majority of the prison population would still be men. But now that women are having to take care of themselves and thereby take criminality into their own hands to provide for themselves, and they expose themselves for the true criminals that they have always been, well, now women are speaking up right now. Oh, no, this is wrong. And I guarantee you, if something like the draft happens, like if women do get approved for the draft and Congress says, okay, let's draft them, I guarantee you the first thing that would happen is that women would be lobbying Congress and saying the draft is unconstitutional. But I mean, they won't say anything until then because, of course, men are the only ones that are going to die. Women don't raise a finger to fight for men because it has nothing to do with men. They don't care about men. It's all about women. They hate men, period. But once women's lives are on the line, once women have to pay a price, well, all of a sudden, oh, the poor women, oh, they're so fragile. They can't handle prisons that were designed for men. What? Are you saying that men are criminals and that women are not, and that all prisons were created for men because men are overwhelmingly criminal? Is that what you're trying to say? See, guys, you need to open your minds to the thought processes, the mentality of women. This is what they really think of us. In closing, the systematic production of mass incarceration cannot be solved simply by assisting troubled and troubling individual women. Notice it didn't say people. Notice it didn't say people, because the writer of this article is a communist, feminist, same thing. So she's all about women, not men. But I'm all about equality. You keep saying that, and you say it enough and enough, and you convince people to essentially turn on their cognitive dissonance engine to ignore the fact that all you're about is empowering women. It's so pathetic. Male feminists running around, all these white knight idiots out there running around fighting for women because he's actually been convinced that they care about men's rights and men's equality too. No, they don't, you idiot. They'll tell you that. But I'm a simp, and I'm a pussy, and I'm a wimp, and I'm pathetic, and I've never gotten laid, so I haven't gotten laid much. I haven't had much luck. I've only had to hire hookers or something, so now, I want to get some pussy, so, I'm gonna simp for this woman. This systematic production of incarceration shouldn't be solved simply by assisting troubled and troubling individual women. Yeah, of course you didn't say anything about assisting troubled men. Of course not. Another step to abolition of women's prisons, right? We want to get rid of women's prison because men are the real evil dogs, okay? There are proxy dogs, and the majority of the time when they come to crime, it's to provide for us. But, they're still evil. Another step to abolition requires taking the discussion beyond the individuals and communities most directly harmed, controlled, and erased by the prison industrial complex to the public sphere. Notice that feminists weren't talking about this shit until women started getting put in jail. Do you realize that? Women were not talking about jail until... the real effects of feminism really started to kick in, and men got so disgusted with women. And people don't realize that. You guys out there, many of you don't realize this, and most women don't say, well, they do realize it, but they don't realize it. They're seeing it in observable reality is the where have all the good men gone narrative. That's where women look around and say, where have all the good men gone? I don't see any of the good men. Where are the good men? They're running away from your ass, okay? Marriage is down 60% since the rise of radical feminism in 1970. 60%. New marriages are down by 60%. I mean, just imagine, 70%, 60% since 1970. Can you imagine that kind of drop? The population has almost doubled, but the rate of new marriages has dropped by 60%. Why is that? Because of feminism. You women have become so detestable, men don't want to be with men. They want to be with actual women, and most of you ain't. And now that so far fewer men are with women, they're having to become criminals because they can't have the man go out there and rob and steal and kill for them. And they still get very little jail time, okay? In Denver, for example, the fail of the jail campaign helped defeat the addition of new jail beds. Well, so what are we going to do with these people? Oh, are they going to sleep in the same bed together? What nonsense. Instead, the director of the state's Community Rancher Project told me that alternatives have proven to help individual women. Oh, I see. So on an individual community level, you're already having luck with this feminist claptrap. It's just on the state and federal level that you're not having as much luck. I see. Interesting. Or actually, they have had some luck on the state level. So the addition of new beds. So in Denver, the Fail the Jail campaign helped defeat the addition of new jail beds, which, of course, would then encourage judges not to give... What that paragraph didn't mention is the Fail the Jail campaign was to stop the addition of jail beds in women's prisons, not men's, women's. So, okay. So instead, the director of the state's Community Rancher Project told me the alternatives are proven to help individual women and change community. Yeah, it's help individual. If you consider helping them, not putting them in jail where they belong, sure. The case for closing women's prisons is built on the experiences of formerly incarcerated women. What does that have to do with anything? Jail is hard. Jail is difficult. It's supposed to be, so it's a deterrent. You make it into a Club Med, you make it less of a deterrent. And by the way, if men and women are equal, women should have to go to the same kind of jail a man does, and they already don't have to do that, so I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Women's prisons are far easier to deal with, and the environment is much better than that in a male prison. So shut the fuck up, you feminist cunt bitch, you. And what care their experiences? What, nobody asked about a man's experiences. What were your experiences like in jail? I got ass raped every day. My ass, it's just this big open hole now. I need to get surgery to close my asshole up. Okay. Nobody gives a shit. But suddenly these women have to go to jail, and we're all supposed to be boo-hooing for these broads because they had a hard time in prison. Which, by the way, women are pussies, okay? Literally pussies. They're wimps. Their idea of a hard time is nothing compared to a man. No, men and women are not equal, but you stupid fucking feminists continue to say men and women are equal, but we're supposed to care more about women, even though their prison experience is less trying than a man's, but it's more difficult on them because they're women. But men and women are equal, so it shouldn't be more difficult on them? What? And activists who recognize that women who are mothers and community builders, female criminals who are robbing and stealing and raping are not community builders. They're community destroyers. They belong in jail. And who gives a fuck if they're a mother? If she's a rapist, if she's a killer, if she's a thief, she's not a good mother, and the kid would probably be better off in foster care with the father or the grandparents. Anybody but her. I love this automatic assumption that because she's a mother, she's somehow the perfect ideal person to be raising this kid. Hello, she's a felon. What's she doing with this kid? Why is her having a kid being considered as some excuse to let her out of prison? If anything, it's more of a reason to send her to jail so that kid can be with somebody that won't turn that kid into a criminal, can find their way forward when they respect it and support it. But what a bunch of bullshit. It is possible to imagine a future without women's prisons. Oh my God, are you kidding me? We need more women in prison, not less. We need real fucking equality, okay? Send more of those bitches to jail. Okay? So we have less of these entitled cunts running around thinking they can get away with anything they fucking want. Lying, stealing, raping. Have you seen this epidemic of women raping boys as teachers and in every other Maine, and they're getting away with it? Okay? We need more bitches in prison, not less bitches in prison. You dumb cunt, you. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments section, and please like and subscribe to my channel. And if you feel so inclined, please donate to my Patreon, because you know that YouTube will 100% definitely demonetize this video, as it does most of my videos. Please donate. I'm out there fighting for you guys, and as you can see, I'm actually passionate, and I give a damn. I am the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.